let me ask you the follow-up question here, because I have a lot of them. Do you agree that Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse? Yes or no?
Yes, it is the duty
Do you
of
believe
Congress
that,
to
let me ask you another
appropriate
follow-up, it's just yes or no. Do you believe you have the power to disregard congressional appropriations and unilaterally repurpose funds that have been duly appropriated by Congress? Yes or no?
Ma'am, we are not doing that.
The
We are
answer to
using
you is
dollars
no.
as to
All
how
right,
they
well,
were
it was a
appropriated
yes
for
or no,
ensuring the
Secretary. Let me
programs have been-
continue. Interestingly, you said no. But since you've been Secretary, you have repeatedly disregarded the law. You have illegally impounded funds that Congress appropriated and that your branch of government must implement pursuant to the law. Yet you've closed offices established in law, including the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, the Office of the Immigration Detention Ombudsman, the Office of the Citizenship and Immigration Services, and you've canceled contracts for programs authorized in law, including shelter and service programs and citizenship and integration grants. You've obstructed and roughed up members of this committee as they attempted to conduct congressional oversight, and then you vilified them. But my question is, if they were so bad, why were they allowed to go in after to conduct oversight? Let me just continue. You redirected funds to terrorize our communities. You created taxpayer-funded political propaganda campaigns to terrorize families and children who don't sleep at night because of the terror of those commercials that you are putting out there. You hold sick, disrespectful press conferences in my state where, let me be clear, you are not welcome. You corruptly used emergency authority to avoid procurement to make Trump's private prison donors richer by directing $45 billion for them to expand ICE detention centers. You defunded work to address real threat to the homeland, all while you pursued college newspaper editors, labor leaders, and even a Harvard scientist who failed to declare fraud embryos at the airport. Clearly, we don't have time for all my questions, so I have 13 pages worth of questions that I will be submitting to the record that I expect you and the administration to answer. But here is my final question to you. When you took your oath, did you swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
So I find it laughable. You don't behave like someone who takes that oath seriously. And let me tell you why. We don't live in a dictatorship or a monarchy. Trump's will is not the guiding doctrine of this nation, and our country is not a playground for his or your twisted authoritarian fantasies. We are a democracy. We defend the Constitution and we affirm the rule of law. We respect the co-equal branches of government and we uphold our rights, even when we disagree. The foundation of our nation is based on a core set of constitutional rights upon which our prosperity, our pluralism, and our peace depend on it. You, however, have been leading this work for 116 days, and in that time, you have profiled and dehumanized our neighbors. You've betrayed our constitutional commitment to due process. You've deported United States citizens. You've undermined the courts. You've broken the law. You've engaged in corruption, and you've weaponized the immigration system to violate civil rights. As Senator Murphy perfectly stated, your department is out of control. But you're responsible. You have betrayed the sacred fundamentals of your oath. And I believe to my core that you are not fit to hold the office. And I again, to your face, demand your immediate resignation. And I put it and place it on the record for all of us to see.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Bring
Yeah.
back the oppressed, man.
So welcome everybody to Rod Pod and Not So Chill. I am coming to you from the land of bad internet, and that intro was fierce. You just witnessed a public servant, public servanting. And Jim, why don't you kick us off and give us some context on that opening clip?
Yeah, that's Delia Ramirez from the great state of Illinois, um, dismantling Christy fucking Gnome into 150 pieces, but with it might have been like the most American thing I've ever heard in my life, right? In an accent, as somebody from clearly an immigrant family, who is absolutely saying just true factual stuff, but without any like attempt to sugarcoat it. And to me, it was a marvel. It was like a revelation. Like, holy crap, a politician who learned how to talk about stuff, about America, about the country that she cares about, that we should all care about like her.
Right.
And I gotta say, like and hat tip, Gal always finds the best stuff. Hat tip to Gal for nailing that. She showed that to me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was like it, and it was just because I've heard so much namby-pamby, milquetoast, whiny bullshit. Here in the DNC crying back and forth to each other about who's which. God Christ.
Yeah.
Like, what I want to hear is, you're a criminal. You're a
Yeah.
criminal here in front of me, and I'm telling you, you should resign now.
Yeah.
Like, and the reaction was really amazing, both on the tweeters and also on my Substack. I've been doing this for 3 years, and it went to the top article on my Substack in
Fantastic.
a day, because people just resonate with that shit. They just want all they want is somebody to fight and give a fucking shit. And yes, I get a lot of, by the way, black pilled people like, well, it's just more words. Why aren't they going to take action? Words are important. I don't know
Yeah.
if you noticed, but words are really important. Words lead to action.
Yeah.
When people hear words that inspire them, that tell the truth to them, it
Yeah.
resonates in them, a thing that makes them take action, whether it's other politicians or people on the ground. So
Yeah.
anyway, Delia Ramirez is my hero of the year so far.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we opened with that clip. I'm in the middle of writing a piece that's going to run on Saturday in Byline, about a lot of the women leaders of Eastern Europe. And if we saw them in the news every single day, these badass women who, against all odds, are holding their fragile countries together or shadowing dictators and exposing them, I can tell you the world would be a much better place and a much saner place. And one of the things that I think is really important about that clip and kind of the theme moving forward is this is a war for truth. So when you have somebody on the record speaking truth very specifically, very much, you are not welcome in my state and I demand your resignation. I mean, that is just like that was a beautiful cold cock. And I've also been writing a lot about reality TV fascism, and that is what Christy Nome delivers. Her with her hair, her with her makeup, her in front of the shirtless prisoners. That's all
The
made for
Rolex.
TV fascism. Yes, Jim. Yes, high five.
I would just like to point out to the International Criminal Court, people in The Hague, that it is a war crime. It is illegal to use prisoners in film without their consent. And I certainly hope when the Trump regime topples that the people who are breaking our laws are held to account either here in this country or globally, because I think the world needs to see that the United States has learned its place and is going to be a good neighbor now, not the arrogant prick that we've been since World War II. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
When are we going to be a good neighbor?
After we get rid of the Trumps and the fascists and the Nazis and the, I don't know, maybe get our shit together. Tax the billionaires.
A lot of work to do, bro.
Yeah, just give it. Just.
I started it to do.
That was beautiful, Jim. Giving people goals, objectives, aims. It's very important because again, this war for truth denies us reality, and you know, we've said from the beginning, lying is the message, and it's part of how the mind war even works. I do want to make sure that people pay attention to a report that I just did where I interviewed Marcy Shore and Michael McKay, guests on RadPod, one of whom you'll be hearing from tonight in our Big Clips Best of. Basically, Ukraine allies gathered in support of creating a court to target Putin and his inner circle over the invasion of Ukraine. And this has not happened since World War II. So it's basically the International Criminal Court issued warrants for the arrest of Putin, but they can only go so far. So this steps in further and could ultimately end up with life imprisonment for Putin. Now, that is a lot of ifs in between all these things. But again, paying attention to this stuff is so much more valuable than watching the Trump and Putin show and the reality show and you know all of this somebody just gave me a great word and I got to remember what it was, but all of this back and forth, all of this bullshit between Trump and Putin and the Istanbul bullshit, and I'm sure Jim has opinions on that.
Well, about all this back and forth between Putin and
Zelensky basically calling Putin out and saying, "Yeah, I'll talk to you."
No. I mean, Zelensky has known from the beginning of becoming president and probably before that Putin isn't going to stop. That Putin is his enemy, and that all of this bullshit about peace talks and all of that was always Ruski Mir, was always Mariskova, right? They're going back and forth and debating each other and all of that. Putin was never ever going to negotiate some sort of permanent peace deal. If he ever does end up doing it, it's just because he's forced to, because he's down to North Koreans, right? He's literally importing people from the shittiest country on planet Earth to his, who are brainwashed, and fed on rice patties and shit, like for real, to come fight in Ukraine in a war they have no earthly idea what it's about. All they know is that the dear leader is telling them to do it. I mean, how fucking pathetic is that? That is who's fighting his war. And so, so all of the I genuinely do think a lot of it is Trump's ignorance and stupidity. Trump has been a Russian asset for 4 decades. We've talked about it ad nauseum on this show, Craig, with the experts in the world on the subject. It's not exactly a fucking secret, and I wish everybody would stop. However, it's also not like, there's literally a remote control in his brain. He and Putin still are independent actors. And remember, they're messianic narcissists. At the end of this game, both of them think that they're going to crush the other one. That's who they are. That will never stop. We're all in the end game, right? In the last sort of stages of this giant ego war between these fucking morons that are taking us with them. And these morons come from theocratic, broligarchical. Can I say
Yeah,
broligarchical?
you did.
you know,
Right.
and foreign interests, and we're gonna have to as I was writing earlier, we have to start
Yeah.
thinking bigger. These people are not. We're no longer playing in this political realm, and I wish we would
Yeah.
stop
We
playing.
also have to figure
Anyway.
out a new way of how we're going to move forward in this sort of techno-fascist state that we've all arrived in, because wherever I go in my travels, and I've now been to multiple countries, you see the same thing. You see phones in everyone's faces, cab drivers addicted to their phones, and when you listen to them talk, you can tell which ones are on Facebook getting radicalized to think they're perfectly good democracies are somehow evil, and we have to figure that out. We have to figure out how we're going to break that. This show was basically founded on how we're going to try to cut through and break the chains of disinformation that are being digitally carpet bombed, Jim's words, into everyone's minds. We have to figure that out. We've got to get people back from this permanent invasion of the body snatchers state, and that's just something that's going to have to become a major, major goal of democracy leaders that are still there. Some of them are getting much better at cutting through the crap and cutting through the political technologist lies. But my thinking is that every single time we see Putin and Trump's face anywhere, it's a fucking win for them. I want to start seeing different people's faces, which again is why I'm glad you opened with a public servanting, because that's very fucking important. Speaking of really important, High Fidelity put together some highlights from recent interviews. I also, on my Substack, put a whole group of our recent interviews together because we all get too busy to promote them. But we've had so many incredible guests. And I think we should probably kick off with a clip from Dr. Marcy Shore from her second visit with RadPod, if you have it, talking about the end of the affair. Do you have that one, High Fidelity?
It was such a decisive moment of the end of the affair that I felt like Europeans in particular, perhaps finally, belatedly, and this of course started with Munich, were shaken into realizing they absolutely cannot trust Washington. This idea of America as, despite all our problems and our hypocrisy and our racism and our violence, and that it was still somehow, the world's deepest liberal democracy and the land of the free and the home of the brave, and that everything that Soviet communism was not, and will in the end be the rescuer and guarantor of freedom. I feel like perhaps the last vestiges of that, that this were yesterday finally, finally were dissolving. I mean, the responses of all of these European leaders were so unequivocal, and many of them are often equivocal, but even the ones who are often equivocal were responding in an unequivocal way, that there was just such disgust and such a sense of betrayal. I mean, one of the things I've been telling my Ukrainian friends and colleagues, and not just Ukrainians, but other Europeans as well, since the election, is you cannot trust us. There's this kind of Freudian denial that, okay, but it couldn't really be that bad. But in the end, it's the United States. In the end, they couldn't actually go that far. In the end, we couldn't really switch sides. Your president couldn't really be working for Putin. I said, no, you absolutely cannot trust us. It has to be over. You have to take that in. These are not people you can work with, either rationally or cynically. They are volatile, they are narcissistic, they are moral nihilists.
Drop
She's such a
all the
badass.
motherfucking mics.
She's
Yeah.
such a
What do you even
badass.
say?
Drop all the
Holy.
mics. Drop all the mics. For
I
those
mean,
of you who don't know, go ahead.
I
No,
was
no.
just gonna
So
say,
so for
please. Marcy, go ahead.
I'm just going to jump in super fast. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Marcy Shore was a Yale professor who now works alongside her husband, Timothy Snyder, in the University of Toronto. They left for Canada, two of the most amazing Eastern European experts and fascism experts on the planet. They know how serious this is. And along with their colleague, Jason Stanley, who is now fighting this beast, this fascist beast for Canada on behalf of Canada, because they feel that we've lost America to this point. And so I just think it's so incredibly important that we hear from her. And we're so grateful that she comes on our show. And bottom line is that for those of you who don't know, we have experts like this week after week. And that is why I think it's really valuable every now and then just to put a compilation like that together and just let people who haven't seen our show hear what we do. But yeah, drop all the mics on that,
I
Jim.
mean, she was reacting to the moment where Trump and JD Vance ganged up on Zelensky, right? You know, where everybody was just like, "Oh, wow, you guys are like that now. Got it." And you know, I think you know that was I was like, I was writing memos to space like, "Dear Europe, fucking, you need to kick us out of NATO, kick us out of your countries, build an army, and bring Zelensky into NATO." Like, because that is the actual reaction that will, you know, put the brakes on these guys, because that is what they're most afraid of. You know, there has been, and let's be super clear about this, it's only been 3 months, right? And
Right.
what has happened? The goddamn God said, we don't like MAGA, and we're gonna put an American woke Pope in.
Yeah.
So
Right.
think about that. So
That's
God
beautiful.
was like, fuck off. You know, I'm an atheist, but
Why?
you know what I mean.
Right, I do.
Canada was all the way down. They were going Poilievre. He was up like
Yeah.
20 fucking points. And
Mm.
Trump started acting like a just garden variety bully.
Yeah.
And Canadians are just like, ew,
Yeah.
like that. We don't
Yeah.
like you. And Australia did the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Their woke, you know, prime minister was going out the door until
Yep.
Australians who are like, oh, what Barbie, whatever the fuck, are like, no, man, yuck.
Yeah.
So I think there is what Marcy is saying and doing is absolutely right. We want
Yep.
to be the global pariah right now. We want the ourselves to get the self-reflection to see what we've done, and we want the world to understand, you know, how dangerous this is, because, and I'll land here, if we can get solid, strong European backup, and I'm not talking about fantasy scenarios of, you
Yeah.
know, people, you know, military intervention, but just
Yeah.
a solid backup. We have solid backup to the north with Canada holding strong.
Yep.
Scheinbaum is not, you know, trying to back down, as far as I can tell right now.
Mm.
You know, we got a chance to sort of squeeze this pimple the hell out, if we have enough backup. So
Yeah.
props to Marcy Shore, and I'm sorry America lost her, Tim. But they they are the most important voices in the world as far as I'm concerned, and I'm glad they're
Yeah,
safe.
me too. All three of them. And the Ukrainian Night, a book that she wrote about the details, kind of intimate details of the Maidan revolution, is just so stunningly beautiful. So everything you said, and you know, to the comments in the chat, the thing that is most hopeful to me about this new pope is the fact that he seems dedicated to truth and is not afraid to call out lies. And I think that is one of the most valuable contributions anybody could make right now on this war on truth, which I think we will have a soundbite from Catherine Stewart on in a moment. Yes, Jim.
He said, I just want to quote him. He said, the media needs to disarm the words of evil,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Like
right.
he was making a direct, request of the media and the press and the world to understand the power of words, literally the
Yeah,
power of words, and to be the fight for them, to fight
yeah,
for words, which again to me as an atheist is wild, because
yeah,
the whole thing's about stories. But he's absolutely right, and the fact that he is prioritizing that in this moment, and also as a guy who told JD Vance he's a fucking idiot,
yeah.
in Pope's feet.
It's
It
freaking
gives me
important.
hope. It gives me hope. I think it's really important, and I think it's a
Very
good
important. And
indication that there's still goodness left in the world that is reacting to this.
absolutely. And it can mobilize, millions, if not, a billion people. So I think it's incredibly important. And also, Marcy's husband, Tim Snyder, is the one who, for me, really identified how Donald Trump failed so much in reality, but where he succeeds is in this unreality that he creates, what we call reality TV, which has nothing to do with reality. And when you see him in the Middle East with these staged photo ops and these kind of freak shows and these weird things happening and weird videos, that to me is that kind of, reality TV fascism is the only way I can really describe it. And we need a lot less of it. Important to know what he's up to, but we need to start seeing heroes. And again, I hope to be delivering more of the women on the front line in Eastern Europe, because those people should be in the news all the time. They're all rock stars. High Fidelity, you have a finger up. What's up?
This is all anecdotal. This is just extended friends and family and whatnot. But I'm a Midwesterner, proud of it. I'm a flyover. I don't care. You guys can have your coasts, whatever. Um, but even those people who were kind of hardcore Republican Trump MAGA, he's gotten so bad. He's gotten so blatant. He's gotten so obviously corrupt. And the idiocy of Elon Musk and Doge. And oh, by the way, Jim, nice find on the 14 tooth sprocket on the Argentinian Nazi files. Funny that Doge has a 14 tooth sprocket in their logo. But
Shout
anyway,
out to Kid Indigo for finding that originally like months ago.
Kit Indigo, shout out. All right.
Great.
But the thing is, sometimes I don't know. It's like being a parent. Sometimes you have to let your child wander down the path of stupid before you pull them back. And maybe now America's finally pulling back. Not enough, not loud enough, certainly not out in the streets enough. But there's starting to be a turn. I slightly. We'll see what happens.
Thank you for that, Hi-Fi. And I think for the second clip from our Big Clips FIIIEEEEEE, which is Hi-Fi's kids' way of saying five when they were younger or something, FIIIEEEEE, FIIIEEEEE.
No, you got to
That's
say it
why.
like this. Number five. That's how it's said.
Okay, so that's what it
Just
is.
FYI.
All right.
Yeah.
That's why there was the missing V, which Hi-Fi and I have freaking tussled over for an hour today. So anyway, the second clip I want to see is Gabrielis Landsberger, former foreign minister of Lithuania, who is a bad ass. He calls out Putin and the Kremlin very, very strong all the time. Being in Lithuania, he kind of has a historic knowledge and lived experience of how this shit works.
Understand how so many Americans supported this movement, a leader of the Donald Trump and who support this movement in general, without noting the critical role of disinformation. They've really declared a war on the truth. Let's just look at a few things that they do. They depend in a really fundamental way on a war on the facts. I mean, one of the first casualties of sort of fact-free hyper-partisanship is competence in government. We can see it in the whole Doge fiasco, right? What kind of government fires the people who handle nuclear weapons? They base policy on lies, on the idea that up is down. So, for example, the administration came to power in part by claiming, what is our greatest problem facing our nation? Is it the fact that so many American children live in poverty, that so many Americans can't afford their homes? Is it that the price of life in the United States is becoming unsustainable, that the number one cause of death among children and adolescents is gun violence? No. They said our biggest problem we face is what they call wokeness, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they use that to launch attacks on free speech, on higher education, on science research, and on civil rights legislation. They manufacture propaganda all the time. They say our public schools are nothing more than Marxist indoctrination factories that exist to change children's gender. This is ridiculous, of course, but they use this lie to justify the dismantling of public education. They say that Democrats want to abort babies after they're born, which isn't a thing. That doesn't happen. That's called infanticide and it's illegal. But they use this lie to restrict various kinds of the most sort of popular and effective forms of birth control, or prevent pregnancy in its very earliest stages. So above all, I think we can see this is a movement that is waging war.
Needless to say, that was not Gabriella Landsberger. That was Catherine
No, that
Stewart,
was
the
not.
author of
I hit
Money,
the wrong
Lies,
thing.
and
You know what
God.
I'm going to do instead?
Kind of what the situation currently reminds me of is that Europe is playing this animal, when attacked by an aggressor, or a bigger animal, that it just plays dead, in hopes that that the predator will just walk away. So if we don't admit that we're under attack, we're just lie on our backs, belly up, not looking pretty. That is our hope, that that Putin just sniffs us and just decides, okay, they're not worth eating, because basically they're just dead, and walk the other way. Because for me, I really, really don't understand the whole debate that has been going, and especially now, because if we divide it, okay, so since the war started up until the Trump's election, you might have thought, and we have that discussion in Lithuania as well, that look, I mean, it's extremely costly to have a European defense strategy, really, to change, to imagine the world without the US. I mean, we're talking trillions, literally, like people calculated, it's like, I don't know, 5 trillion euros that need to be invested in order for us to be able to replace the United States here in Europe. So since there was no debate about that, or at least, we could have pretended that there's no debate about that, it was kind of, at least you could have find an explanation why we're there. So we invested, Poles invested more, but the Europe was not moving. So Putin did not wake us up. So now comes Trump, and he says, look, I might be moving out of Europe. And I'm convinced that this will happen in some way or form. And now you have leaders of Europe literally declaring that, look, Europe is a soft power project. We need to think more about our culture and songs and I don't know what, rather than weapons. And to me, there's literally just no explanation other than, you guys back at the front, you deal with Putin, and we'll just be fine wherever we are, further down south or west. And this is scary, because basically it means that the Europe, which we consider it being some sort of a union that takes care of all the countries within.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, ever since he said that, we've been seeing a lot of little bit of saber rattling, a little bit more than words from Europe. So I'm
Well,
optimistic,
Germany is certainly
cautiously.
stepping up.
Yeah,
Germany.
Germany's got a baller leader, Macron. Again, I'm going to be writing about these women that I want everybody to know about just as much as they know the name of Putin and Trump. You need to know about these badass women of Eastern Europe. So anyway, just to make it clear, that was Catherine Stewart. She wrote an incredible book, Money Lies in God. And again, one of the brilliant interviews that we had the opportunity to do a few weeks ago. And then, of course, you just heard from a former foreign minister of Lithuania who knows how this stuff goes. And I've said this on the show before, but his grandfather was a total badass politician who's the one who basically helped free Lithuania originally from the Soviets. And so he's got a history of understanding their game in these plays. Anyway, I don't know why America seems so clueless about how all of these information warfare tactics, uh, you know, are created, because they've been doing the same shit for decades, country after country, rarely even changing the tactics, just modernizing them. So yes, high fidelity, up comes the finger. What's up?
Can I point out that our supposed leaders, right? The people who
Mhm.
are supposed to be putting in the work to overturn the fascists to get them out of power. I see them on Twitter with their little sound clips, and I see their little YouTube videos, and I see their tweets. And like, I'm sure you have a team and everything, but I don't care. Do the goddamn work. File the legislation, form the committees, have the public hearings, get airtime. Like, what is going on? I just,
I don't know. I'm pushing back on you, bro. I want them to do more of those things. I want them to do more YouTube videos and podcasts. I want them to be all over the fucking place. I want them to have all sorts of interns. I want them to start clubs where people go out into the fucking internet and start, like, what needs to happen here is a reversal of what they have done to us.
Yeah,
Like, what in many ways you think of it as a, like, this sort of like poison gas attack of
yeah,
disinformation, right? That now has no regulation. The government is now in favor of poisoning people. And so we are going to have to, however it gets organized, and whether or not it's just energy that does it all by itself, or we do something better than that, we got to get out here with some leaf blowers, literally, like a bunch of us, and just start and just start blowing the bullshit out of people's way. It's
right.
not, there's none of this is going to cure anyone, but we have got to actually get down and start talking to people, understanding who
So
they are, what they are. Hold on. And pushing back on this thing at the actual grassroots, as opposed to the sort of political whiny establishment version of grassroots. No, we got to go on these asshole podcasts. We got to be on Twitter and on Telegram and in all these places, being present and being unafraid of who we are, because the fear that everybody has right now of putting their face out there because they're going to get trolled or whatever, that is their weapon. And I encourage our, anybody who is in the business of changing things, um, communication with the world is a huge part of that. And I know that you're not suggesting not to do that,
yeah,
hi-fi, but I want to commend people, who actually get out there and try things and do stuff, because all of those ideas are going to need to be put together, the best ones sorted out, and we're going to need a military style strategy for recapturing the information space.
Two things
That's all
can
there
be
is.
true at once. One of our mantras are two things can be true at once. I don't want to see, I don't need to
No,
see
one
no, no,
thing.
no. I don't need to see Adam Schiff's sternly worded tweets in a thread anymore. I don't
Okay,
fucking need to see that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't
okay,
need to see it because it's not moving
but
the
that's just
needle. Now,
bad.
if okay,
Wait. Chuck, hey. It's been a while, and Chuck Schumer sent a sternly worded letter with 8 questions.
Bro, I quit the
yeah,
Democratic Party. You don't have to convince me.
yeah,
What are
no,
you
no, no,
talking
no.
about?
I know,
No, wait, I
but
was wondering if anyone had a follow up on that shit because I'm not
the
seeing it.
reason
No,
we
they're
opened
not.
with the quote, the reason
You
we
got
opened from
Ken
the
Martin.
quote from Delia is on the record, that whole clip from Delia is on the record. She says, we don't want you in our state and we want you to resign. And here's what you have to answer. And this is going on the record. And it was fierce. And so more of that, please. And again, part of what we have underestimated is for decades, this type of Soviet mind war has been occurring in democratic nations with well-funded political technologists. And now you have a bunch of traitors in America who are carrying that water and those talking points. It's really hard as activists and as people who don't even like think like that. Maybe a veteran Democratic, senator or something, don't even think like that to actually go up against it. But this has to be what everybody's doing now. This has to be where you're expending your time, because we've been saying on this show for years, people's minds are being poisoned. Social media has been anti-social media, and we have to figure out how to break that and stop that and bring back truth, which is why Catherine Stewart's quote or soundbite was so incredibly vitally important. This has been a very well-funded war on truth, and we got to do all the things to try to get that back. Yes, Jim.
Speaking of that, I wanted to mention something from yesterday that I wrote about. So AI. Y'all may have heard of this thing called AI, or if you're education secretary, A1.
Steak sauce.
But what I discovered by accident yesterday, and then was discovered by a lot of people, was that Elon Musk's AI Grok was hacked to respond to all sorts of shit with white genocide, with equivocating language about white genocide, about how, well, some people say it's not real, but then there's these people who chant, kill the Boers. And it's like, what the fuck? And I had put something up there of Elon Musk. He was like clapping funny, and I had a funny video up there, and somebody was like, "Rock, what's he doing?" And he was like, "Well, when people say kill the Boers, because of the white genocide in South," I was like, "What the fuck?" Anyway, so a bunch of other people then started saying, "Hey, why is it answering about white genocide in South Africa? To like a question about baseball statistics, or somebody had a crypto wallet, that they were announcing, and it was like, well, by the way, you seem to be talking about kill the Boers, the white genocide." I was like. Anyway, so I went and asked Grok about it. Literally, I asked it. And it was like, at first it denied it. And then I was like, can you give me an example? I was like, yeah, here. It was like, oh, shit. It literally was like, oh, that doesn't seem right. Why is it that I am responding to all these things? That seems like some kind of code or bias in my programming. That's not ideal if you're trying to deliver non-biased information to your audience. Literally, that's what the AI is saying to me. That it recognizes it's now saying white genocide to all of these people. Now recall, Elon Musk is a little Boer. He was grown up as a little Boer, a little Afrikaner, even though his mother is English, his father was American, Canadian, whatever. He thinks of himself as a little Boer, And he is obsessed with returning apartheid to South Africa and apartheid to America, to the point, in case you missed it, that he's importing Afrikaner racists to America who claim that they're being persecuted for being white, which is a bullshit lie that has been around since Mandela and the ANC took over South Africa. Anywho, so be careful out there of when kids are out there with these chatbots and shit. You know, they here. Them briefly. Here's what happened here. I happened to have programmed a shitload of AI over the last 30 years. And the way AI works, as part of it is, there's whatever you ask it is the query, it's the actual text, and then there's the context, which is all the other stuff that goes with it. So, for example, if you're talking to the chatbot and you're talking about spaghetti, like, and it doesn't start talking about some other shit, right? Because it remembers, because it's got context. Somebody was adding the concept of white genocide and killing white people to the context of every single one of the queries to Grok, so that it was remembering as if this conversation was about killing white people. That is how dangerous and how blatant and sick these techno oligarchs are, is they are willing to openly, blatantly try to brainwash people into actual apartheid ideology.
Well, also, white supremacy is a hell of a drug when you're on an authoritarian capture. So that's, that's
No,
another
but yes,
element
but
to it.
this is quite a different and dangerous mechanism,
Yeah.
because people seem to still think that AI is like, oh, it's just AI, it's all the same.
I just keep
No.
hearing the Bad Religion song, "We're only going to die from our own arrogance," because it just seems like this is just really, incredibly bold arrogance. Yes, high fidelity.
It's so arrogant.
So while Jim's talking about hacking AI, I'd like to talk about hacking reality for a second, specifically the importation of immigrants and how they alter the voting outcomes of specific geographic areas, because I do believe that if someone, just a thought experiment, if someone were to, find out where these Afrikaners settled, what does that do to the voting tallies in those areas where they've moved to? It's just interesting that all of a sudden, we're okay with the right type of immigrant, but we hate all the other.
Let's be clear about something. 3 million black and brown children, 3 million of them are dying right now because of Elon Musk. He is threatening, bullying, and arresting people and disappearing them off the street into foreign fucking prison camps. Nobody is being allowed into the United States. 0 people are being allowed into the United States as refugees, except for a bunch of racist South African farmers. Literally 59 are the only refugees that the United States of America is bringing into our shore. The Statue of Liberty weeps. So let's just be clear about how fucked up and how like deeply projective, is that a word?
Well, also, it gives the reality TV fascist narratives an opportunity for Trump to stand at the pulpit and talk about how the media doesn't want to talk about how white people are being persecuted. It's just, it all plays into the same narrative to continue stoking fake outrage. And again, it goes back to reality versus unreality, truth versus lies. And they are warping the way people see the world with this narrative structure of lies. And again, you throw a rock in that regime and you will hit a white supremacist. And that's one of the things that we've talked about again on the show from the beginning: misogyny, white supremacy as the gateway to this type of fascist capture. We have another clip from Marcy Shore that I would love to see right now if we have it. I can't hear you.
I hit the wrong one. Which one's Marcy? 4? 1?
No way. You hit the wrong one. You mean we're having
Yeah.
technical difficulties?
Yeah, we are.
4.
No way.
4.
4? Well, that's what this one says. Yeah, that's not 4.
No.
Hold on. You guys talk a little bit more. I'm going to figure out what the hell happened to 4.
Yeah.
This is
1,
like a
2,
bad
3,
episode.
4.
This is
No,
a
it
bad
doesn't matter.
episode of
It's Rad
Sesame
Pod and
Street.
Shelf. If
It's
anybody's
a
here for
bad.
the first time, this is the part where the show was designed to, the Thursday night. The Thursday night show was designed to be at the bar with friends, just talking about news, bunch of, news junkies. Oh, I got a little
Today's.
filler. I got a filler item. The term that I was gifted was called diplobabble. What we've been seeing a lot of is this diplobabble, this back and forth, and it's like, been making sure to suck the life out of the news cycle. Hi-Fi, are you actually cutting the clip in real time, or do you have it?
I'm cutting that fucker in real time. We'll do it live.
Oh my
Okay.
God, we're doing it live. We're doing
Let's do
it
it live.
live. Highest five.
Super scary. I'm super scared. I really appreciate Gal continually misspelling Hi-Fi's nickname as Hi GH Fi.
Just simply being descriptive. That's all. That's all.
Nice to see all the friends in the chat. Oh my God. Oh my God. I actually just misunderstood and thought Gal called Hi-Fi a Karen. Okay. Jim, do you have any else little filler vibes while Hi-Fi is
she's
cutting
talking
Marcy's
to.
clip?
Well, so yes, there was a. Did we talk? Did I talk about the what you call it that they found in Argentina?
You did, but it wasn't super, super clear what you were
Just a
talking
little
about.
bit.
So
Hold
maybe
on.
you
I'll
could,
pull it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
let's
can't.
watch. Let's watch. Hi-Fi. Pull up the clip. Oh my God, this is the worst we've ever just, I'm sure
Wait.
our super amazing ratings are just floundering right now.
No, our ratings are fine. Wait, what? What do you? Is he's finding a clip? Should I be talking about something or not?
Oh,
I'm
I don't
confused.
know. You know what okay, here we go.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
thank
Oh
you.
yeah. Here we go. Oh yeah. There
Well,
we go.
it's an odd source for it, but anyway, Argentina found a bunch of Nazi documents in the Supreme Court, under the Supreme Court. Now, you may know that Argentina was basically one of the underground railroads for the Nazis, both during and after the war. Now, Hi-Fi, did you happen to see the close up on that, or see my article or anything, or can I show this? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Basically the logo.
You should be able to share yours, man. Share yours.
I don't know how to do that, man. You're asking.
You see
The
the little computer
logo,
screen that with an arrow
the
up?
the logo
You're
that the
Clips.
Nazis used was the
you're
same
asking a lot of me,
logo
bro.
that Elon Musk used regarding Doge, and you cannot be more overt in your white supremacy
Okay, so
Nazi
here.
love than that.
So these are the books that were on the. Can you see that? Am I showing this? Hello?
Yeah, you're good. It's on screen.
Yeah, good. Okay. So these are the books that were on there with this distinctive logo that, if people have been watching or paying any attention to me, has been a repeatedly used by Elon Musk and Doge. It specifically has 14 spokes around it, which is very important to white supremacists. And so, I just find it just crazy that they literally found the Doge logo in 84-year-old Nazi documents. Anyway. Then there was one other thing that I thought was notable and deeply ironic, was that they found this thing. This is the an original Magna Carta from the year 1300. If you're unaware, the Magna Carta has in it such fancy woke concepts as due process and habeas corpus that were enshrined there for the first time. This is exactly the kind of document that they want to tear up because they don't like those woke ideas. Anyway, this was found in Harvard, and they originally had paid $27 for it, but it is actually worth somewhere around $25 million. So I thought that was cool. And,
Thanks, Jim. That's all really, really important stuff. Go to mind-war.com to read Jim's Substack. It's really important. I read it every freaking day. High Fidelity, do you have Marcy's clip?
I do. I just gotta find it right quick. I do. I'm having a day, man. Look, anyway.
I'm trying. You got it? You got it, bro? Yeah, bro?
I don't know, maybe.
You got it, bro? Bro, you got it? Bro, you got it?
It's not letting me share just the video. Hold on. Maybe it will if I go over here.
Oh, Lordy. Oh,
yeah, we're trying something new, people. Here we go. Ready?
And another thing I would emphasize here, both for people of younger generation who don't remember the Soviet Union, and even for those of us who do, is that it was the largest, most far-reaching, deepest penetrating, grandest scale social engineering experiment ever performed on mankind. We are still in some ways coming to terms with the sheer scale of the experiment and the sheer scale of the catastrophe. It was in many ways unprecedented. It was an attempt not just to remake a government and not even just to remake a society. It was an attempt to re-engineer human beings on a massive, massive scale.
And here's the problem is those human beings are still around. You know, we've talked about Operation Paperclip. We've talked about Soviet intelligence.
Yeah.
It should be obvious to people by now. I'm not sure why they're not getting it.
Putin is a KGB agent. Let's be look. What happened? Putin is a Nazbol. I'll just say this one more time. He's not a communist. He's not a fascist exactly. He is the worst combination of both. He is a Nazbol, a Nazi Bolshevik, which means he liked the imperialistic, aggressive, revolutionary components of communism, but he doesn't understand Marx or give a shit about any of that stuff because he likes all the Western goodies. He loves all that shit. And he's not a fascist exactly. He's super proud of, but in many ways he is a fascist because, his regime is white supremacist, misogynist, and imperialistic. And so, it is a quite a brew, and Marcy is absolutely right that communism per se wasn't Marxism, it wasn't about a class struggle, it wasn't about any of that. It was an experiment in mind control. That's all it was.
Milan Kundera, an author, who had been a communist said, we never even saw what communist could have been, because that's never what it was. It was always, some variation of totalitarian fascism. One thing I want to say is, we are so incredibly grateful to the historians that come on our show and educate us, because having access to those types of, people with that kind of experience and in-depth understanding of things that came before have been vital to our understanding of it. And also, to Jim, to your point, I would add gluttonist. I would just add gluttonous. This, when you think of Putin, he is a thief who wants everything and can never get enough. And yes, according to Putin's Kleptocracy by Karen DeWeesha, he wanted all the Western stuff. He's a player hater writ large, completely always jealous of what the West had and wanted it and wanted it. And, well done, motherfucker. But this isn't over yet. Hi-fi, fingers up. What's up? Show's over. We're done. What's up? What's up?
No, I just need to point something out. And you study this, you hear about it, and really, I don't think people apply it to, as Jim was saying, a bigger scale. We have to think bigger. We have to see things bigger, and that is called the principal agent problem, right? The people in a democracy are the principal people that the democracy should work for, that the government should work for. But what we are experiencing is the agents who are supposed to be carrying this out. They are utilizing the system both to enrich themselves, to enrich their funders. We have every system, and this is the problem with communism as well, as it was put together in China. I mean, we look at Xi Jinping, the man is a gangster. We look at Putin, the man is a gangster. We look at Orban, the man is a gangster. Lukashenko, Fico, Vukic. I mean,
binga banga boonga.
It keeps going, man. Trump.
Where are we going? Where we're going to?
Okay, here's where we're going with this, right? Here's where we're going with this is it is down to the principals to hold their agents accountable. And if our agents are not doing what they should be doing to provide the best outcomes for the vast majority of their principals, us, their constituents, the people of the United States, doesn't matter what system you have. It could be communism, it could be capitalism, democracy, socialism. If that principal agent problem exists within that system, and I guarantee you it fucking well does, because everywhere I look, I see rich people running the government.
Yeah.
The problem is not the type of government. The problem is that the principals have not held the agents accountable, and they have allowed them to be co-opted. And sorry, that's some heady shit. You know what?
High fidelity, landing the plane, man. Landing that plane.
All right. I'm actually gonna give the last word.
Polish foreign minister.
No, I'm not gonna give you the Polish foreign minister. You're gonna have to go watch. And here's the thing. You can use copyrighted music on Twitter and you don't get hit, but you can't use it on YouTube, which is funny because Google is massively violating copyright to train its AI. Anyway, that's out there. Anyway, I'm actually going to go for the Midwestern ending. This is a friend of mine. He's got a guitar shop down in Painesville, Ohio, and it's just about the decency of people.
Right on.
And people are coming out of it. Reality's starting to snap back a little. I need to snap back more, but still talk to your friends, man.
Lion-headed a desk that I painted white. 1 2 out back for grandma mine on my mother's side. Guess it's alright that it came with me. I put it in a room of a grandpa of mine on my father's side. He hasn't died, he's down in Tennessee. I'm wondering if he's gonna be alright. What a strange way the world goes round. Drive 12 hours north or south and you won't be let down. You won't be let down. Thinking back on a talk with a friend of mine of the things we'd done back in our prime. We were wild and free, chasing our dreams every morning. I couldn't help but laugh at the things we do, how we almost died, how it almost was true just a couple of times. I guess we turned out fine. What a strange way the world goes round. Drive 12 hours north or south and you won't be let down. You won't be let down. For 36 years I've walked and crawled, built up as many torn down walls, flown high enough so I could fall and still survive. Well, in the thick of it, it still rings true. You change your mind in everything you do. It's just a big glass house, you can see through which way to go. But what a strange way the world goes round. Drive 12 hours north or south and you won't be let down.